Hey everybody, welcome back to this live Between the Headlines show where we look at the embedded spiritual aspects of our news and reality, because we can't take the news and reality at face value. There's always underlying meanings. So if you're new to the channel, welcome, and we enjoy doing these morning shows. Every morning we're here, usually about the same time, about 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's kind of early for a lot of people. But some people are getting ready for work on the West Coast. Other people are, well awake and on the commute to work on the East Coast. So today we're going to get into some of these headlines. And we're also going to start here with this particular word. I don't know if anyone's discovered this yet, but we all know that Pfizer is a company that makes smaxines, don't we? So I looked up the word fizz or fizz, which is kind of what I think that they were getting at. And did you know that the sound fizz originated from the sound of a snake? Yep, here it is right here. I think this is Webster's dictionary. Fizz means to make a hissing or sputtering sound. The sound that a snake would make, isn't it? So, this gives us some clues as to what all this is about, especially in light of the recent discoveries that have been made about some of the products that Pfizer makes. Anyway, we've got a lot today to cover. We have a dramatic video of an electric bus bursting into flames. Then we're going to break down Nina Jankowicz's bizarre Mary Poppins TikTok video that she made just weeks after we decoded Mary Poppins and her popping pin umbrella and her spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down. I also dug into Jankowicz's last name, and you won't believe what I found on that. Then we're going to read about a mystery liver disease that children are getting. And finally, one of our last topics will be the economic war in Russia. Let's go ahead and get started here. Now, I want to open the show with this comic book frame from Aquaman. Now, somebody sent this to me because they were like, we've been talking a lot about hydras and octopuses and blue blood, haven't we? And we noticed that the octopus, when it's open in the defensive position, looks like an umbrella. And we're like, this has to be the umbrella they were getting at. Umbrella injecting the copper blue blood. Because umbrellas are syringes, aren't they? So we realized that. We also realized the cloning aspect of an octopus and how they clone their surroundings and backgrounds to match whatever it is that they're trying to hide inside of. Very, very crazy stuff. Now, if you look at this comic book frame here, you see that the octopus here is shooting Apollo's arrows of cure and disease, because that's what Apollo does, doesn't he? He creates the cure and he creates the disease. Unbelievable. Now, in this comic series, the octopus's name is Topo, and he's actually Aquaman's favorite pet. Topo, here he is right here. Now, Topo has some interesting background. He first was revealed in 1956, and he was created by a woman named Ramona Freyden. And he was born on a planet called Dees. Look at this. Unbelievable. Now, what else did Topo do for Aquaman, other than being his best friend and sidekick? Well, Topo would open up portals for Aquaman. Kind of weird how this is all the stuff we've been talking about, isn't it? So, something bizarre going on. Let's take another look at this image here. It says you can operate your bows at one time. 4 bows at one time. I taught you that trick years ago. This is Aquaman speaking. to Topo. And then he's, shooting off these arrows here. Of course, arrows are synonymous with needles, syringes. We'll get into that more later in the show because I found something I couldn't even believe it. In the Bible, stories about reeds piercing things. Interesting, right? And then it says here, the octopus is almost as good a shot as the green arrow. We're pinned to the wall with their masks on, right? Wow. So, this is what's going on with Aquaman. Now, let's make sure you guys are with me, and then we'll continue on because we're going to get into this electric bus fire. I'm going to show you a short video that is crazy. It's chilling what these electric buses and cars can do and what can happen to them. Let's take a look at this short video on this electric bus fire. But let's back this up a little bit. So, starts out like this. Everything's normal. Let's make this bigger so you guys can see this. Boom. Now, this isn't just a fire. This is an explosion. I mean, it is literally just exploding. It looks like a firework from 4th of July. And a lot of the stuff we look at is about, a lot of the stuff we look at is about 4th of July, isn't it? It's a date that keeps coming up over and over again. Now, as these dates come and go, nothing really happens ever, does it? But maybe this is spiritual. Maybe this is about things exploding and blowing up like fireworks, just like these electric buses. Here's another one. Look at all the smoke. Now, of course, this is the latest in the string of fires with these kinds of electric vehicles that are just exploding, just randomly exploding. Now, as you can see, this would have definitely killed everybody inside if there were people inside of it still on board. But fortunately, they were evacuated. But imagine if there was no warning. These things are basically like ticking time bombs. Look at that. The thing is completely destroyed. Look. It's like a skeleton. Now, these particular buses that are electric, all of the batteries are in the roof and the back of the bus. As I was reading through this article. And this is what they've just started catching fire. There's no reason behind it. Some of these buses are new. They're not very old. And the company has pulled them off the market. They've 500 electric buses have been pulled out of the market here. And it's out of its fleet of 4,700 vehicles. So, we'll keep an eye on this, but, this can happen to anything. It can happen to a bus, any kind of electric vehicle. I wouldn't be wanting to drive in something like this. Crazy. Now, let's get into this next story. Because about a month ago, we decoded Mary Poppins, didn't we? And what her umbrella actually signified. We realized that it was a hypodermic needle. And the spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down, that was a direct reference to the spoonful of sugar given with the polio smack scene. Now, why is an umbrella a needle? Well, they share the same parts. Hypodermic needle has a part called a ferrule, F-E-R-R-U-L-E, and the tip of an umbrella is called the exact same thing. And like I just also explained to you about the octopus, it's the same thing. Octopus in the defensive position looks like an umbrella. And it has copper blue blood. Now, what is this really all about? Well, Mary Poppins really is Mary popping you with a pin. Now, what does that have to do with Nina Jankowicz? Well, she's the newest nemesis that has arrived on the world stage. Nina Jankowicz. And she has been summoned from the gates of hell to head up the first American Ministry of Truth. Now, this is no joke. They call it the Disinformation Department, but really this is the Ministry of Truth from 1984. Weird thing about this woman is she provides neither a birthday or a birth year. They give an estimated date of her birthday, 1988 or 1989. She appears to be 33 years old at this point, 32 or 33. But even with the information that they give us, this woman is loaded with occult symbolism, isn't she? Weird thing is she went to Russian universities, as you can see here. You know, we make fun of Russia for hiding the truth and skewing their media, and then we hire the very same person out of this background to basically be the Ministry of Truth for our media. Wow. Now, she also has a background in the no crane, because you can't talk about it. Russia and no crane. You can't speak about it. You can't talk about it. This is crazy. So, what else is going on? Well, just days ago, the reason why we're talking about Nina is because just days ago, she doesn't even look like the same person, does she? Look at this picture compared to her TikTok video. This is her, and this is her. Doesn't even look like the same picture. Anyway, we're going to play a few seconds of this. This is from her TikTok video, and it went viral. And she's singing this cringy Mary Poppins song, which is just really weird because we were talking about Mary Poppins. We were pretty much one of the only truth channels talking about Mary Poppins 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then here comes Nina.
Is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies. Information's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you had a little lie when Rudy Giuliani shared that intel. Disinfo, and we really should take note and not submit for our mainstream outlets. So just
now, of course, I'm fast forwarding this. I'm sure this has got copyright all over it. But understand that probably 80% of the disinformation out there is actually created by these people. This is why you got to be very careful here in the truth community what you just accept as the newest thing, the newest gotcha moment. Because 80% of it is just more disinfo to make us all look bad, to give them a reason to have this ministry of truth, and to give them a reason to censor us. This is why you always notice on this channel, I never jump right on something as soon as it's released. I have to see corroborating evidence first. For instance, with the Hydra situation, I had to make sure that this was being reflected in many other places, not just this one place. And it appears as though there is some kind of Hydra component to this. But people were on me for months and months. Why aren't you talking about this? It's because sometimes, many times, the stuff that comes out is these people making up misinformation so that they can come back and say, look, these people have, gone out and shared all this information and it's wrong. And they usually find the most ridiculous stuff so that they can make us look even more ridiculous. So if something sounds ridiculous, it most likely probably is ridiculous. And it was created by these people to make us look bad. That's why you got to be very careful. Well, you don't have to be careful, but for me, I feel like I have a responsibility to my subscribers to make sure the information that I'm sharing is likely true. Okay? I'm not going to get it right 100% of the time. But isn't this cringy? This is just crazy. Given the backdrop of what I just explained to you and how we just decoded Mary Poppins, and we played videos from the polio era. Remember that? By the way, polio came out of the root word Apollo. Apolio. Bringer of disease and the bringer of the cure. Bizarre. Now, I took this a step deeper because I wanted to figure out what her last name was about. So I went into, this is her family crest, Jankowicz. And this basically means a Polish name. Janko simply means son of Janko. So I wanted to break it down even further. Son of Janko. So here's Janko here. And you're not going to believe this. This is where we get into spiritual aspects of our reality. Manifestations that cannot possibly be by accident. Revealing themselves through the Holy Spirit. Janko means Janos. Kind of sounds like Janus, doesn't it? Which also means Jacob. Wow. So I looked up Pierce in the Bible because that's just where the Spirit led me. Look up Pierce, Casey. I look up Pierce, and lo and behold, what did I find? Jacob, brought forth out of Egypt. Let's just read this in the Word right here, straight from the Word here. How godly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel. As the valleys are they spread forth, as gardens by the river's side, as the trees of line aloes, which the Lord hath planted, and as cedar trees beside the waters. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters, and his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brought him forth out of Egypt. He hath as it were the strength of a unicorn. He shall eat up the nations, his enemies, and shall break their bones and pierce them through with arrows. So, Jacob brought up out of Egypt with the strength of a unicorn, piercing through the nations with his arrows. Jacob Jankowicz. Then I kept looking, and I found all these other references to reeds, piercing things. A reed is a hollow arrow. You guys, the word syringe comes from the word syrinx. The name given to Pan's pipes. They were called syrinx. Pan's pipes stolen after Artemis was turned into hollow reeds. So this whole thing about piercing with hollow reeds was predicted in the Bible, predicting the invention of the hollow hypodermic needle that would be used to pierce us. Let me read this, and then we'll read the chapters in the Bible that talk about hollow reeds piercing things. In classical Greek mythology, Syrinx was a nymph and a follower of Artemis. Pursued by the amorous god Pan, she ran to the river's edge and asked for assistance from the river nymphs. In answer, she was transformed into hollow water reeds that made a haunting sound when the god's frustrated breath blew across them. Pan cut the reeds to fashion the first set of panpipes, which were thenceforth known as syrinx. The word syringe was derived from this word. All of the appropriate footnotes are listed here for you to double check this. Encyclopedia Britannica, Ovid, it's all here. Now, let's get into the references of hollow reeds piercing things in the Bible. You guys, this is, I don't even have words right now to describe to you what this discovery means. 2 Kings 18:21. Now behold, thou trustest upon the staff of this bruised reed, even upon Egypt, on which if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. Isaiah 36:6. Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt, wherein if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all that trust in him. You guys, this whole needle ritual is mockery. Biblical mockery. Why? Because Christ was first pierced for our sins, wasn't he? And instead they're going to pierce us with something else, aren't they? So that's what I found on the hollow reeds mentioned in the Bible, piercing things. Now obviously, to me, this 2 Kings is, they're almost saying the same thing. So Isaiah is quoting 2 Kings, it appears here. A man leaning on a broken reed and being pierced by it. Interesting. And they're comparing that to Pharaoh. Now, I got a couple more stories for you guys before we get into the rest of this. We're going to talk next about student loans, which is, of course, the greatest scam of all time. I actually got through school and finished in 1996. I had $15,000 in debt, and I thought that was a lot at the time. It took me 6 years to pay it off, but nowadays people owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in school loans. So I feel like education is overpriced to begin with, because by the time you get out, your degree is almost obsolete. I mean, unless you're in some of these professions, maybe nursing or something, that don't change over time. But I mean, how many people go? I mean, I guess a lot of people get nursing degrees, but look what's happened to the medical establishment. These people got all forced into doing something that they didn't want to do. But here's what happens. They got to prop up these educational systems. It's basically government, because these loans come from the government. And so what happens is, anytime you have the government involved in some of this stuff, it's overpriced. We've seen it time and time again. With government contracts, things are overpriced. And that's because there are people making profits off of things. And it's no different from the educational system. And this is why people pay so much for their educations. Because you got to prop up these educational systems, don't you? With professors and buildings and groundskeepers, all these people need to be paid off. And so basically it's a ripoff. Anyway, Bo Jiven is talking about forgiving most student loan debt. Now understand that no doubt there will be parameters to all this. I'm sure there'll be special rules, maybe a time frame over the course of several, decades, maybe, I don't know. But the people who paid off their debts, they're mad about this. Let's read this. A slap in the face. Some Americans are mad over potential student loan forgiveness. As the president weighs broad student loan forgiveness, some Americans expressing frustration over a policy they see as unfair. While some may view this debt forgiveness as a slap in the face to people who are responsible and paid off their student loans, this is a bigger slap in the face to those Americans who never went to college. Wasn't expecting that. Research has shown that a college degree generally boosts an individual's earnings over their lifetime. And given that any broad-based forgiveness would cost tens of billions of dollars, all taxpayers, not just by those who have a college degree, would be contributed to the cost of the cancellation. Wow. Now let me explain something to you. Just because the degree isn't what makes you more money. What makes you more money are the people that hire you based on minimum requirements. Now, let me give you an example. When I worked you guys know I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 15 years. And the requirement was you had to have a bachelor degree. They preferred a bachelor of science, but if you had a bachelor of arts degree, they would accept that. But then as the years went on, they started not even accepting bachelor of science degrees. They started only hiring reps that had master's degrees. So, was my job that difficult? No, it wasn't. I mean, yeah, there was some memorization involved. You had to be able to carry on a conversation with people. But basically, it was just a lot of book work and knowledge. You didn't need a bachelor of science degree or a master's degree to be able to do that. I know people that have much better memorization skills than I do. They could have easily done the job that I did without a degree. So, who's really propping up this whole educational system? Who's really making these requirements, especially for professional positions that literally a lot of different people can do without a degree? Well, it's the companies, isn't it? It's the companies making these requirements, isn't it? So, now I understand for certain things like, a nurse, for instance. You probably should have proper training for that, because there's some technical stuff involved with that, a lot of technical stuff. And you should go to a school and learn how to do all that and get lots and lots of practice. That's what I would want for someone working on me. But maybe there's a way around that even. Maybe if someone can learn themselves and show proficiency in being able to do all the things that a nurse does, maybe they should be given an honorary degree without having to go through all the schooling and all this. Something needs to change, you guys. We have this paradigm in our country and in the world. Our whole reality is one giant paradigm. And the controllers are the ones who prop up these institutions. And we think it's the only way, it's the only path to get to somewhere. Well, there shouldn't be just one path. There should be multiple paths to create opportunities for talented people that might not necessarily have the money to go to a proper school, but that are very smart and bright people that pick up on this stuff. Wouldn't that be the best case scenario? Wouldn't you want someone who has a love of, let's say, nursing that might not get through an educational program for one reason or another, but could learn all this stuff, and if they could demonstrate it, then they could actually do a much better job than some of these other people who thought they wanted to be a nurse but really didn't particularly have a true love of it. You see what I'm saying? I hope this is coming through loud and clear, because we need to have different paradigms, don't we? Everything seems to be set up to make rich people richer, to create this sense of competition, which isn't always the best way to find the best people. Competition isn't the best way to do it, because that's the duality approach, and I don't agree with that all the time. So, let's keep going here. So, let's read about these loans. How can we honestly ask people who did not go to college to subsidize the lives of those who did decide to go to college? Now, this is not good, you guys, because here's what's going to happen now. This is going to create more division in America. Now you're going to have the people who didn't go to college hating on the people that did and got their loans canceled, and so on and so on and so on. There are people that have deep-seated feelings about this. There are people that made lots and lots of sacrifices to pay off their loans. But this is the problem you have. People just decide they want to go to college, but they don't really have a direction. They show up, they spend a bunch of money on loans, and then they don't apply themselves afterwards. And now they're just going to sit in debt their whole life. Don't you see the problem with that? I hope you do, because to me it makes perfect sense. So they got this battle of the who, should we cancel it or should we not? Some right-leaning academics argue that there are a variety of problems with canceling student loan debt. These include the overall cost and the fact that forgiveness does not directly address the core issue of rising college costs. Canceling 10,000 or 50,000 across the board is really badly targeted. Okay, so looks like what they're aiming at, between $10,000 and $50,000. Now that's really going to just put a small dent in a lot of people's debt. They are people who are struggling to repay their debt, and we've got an existing set of solutions. and those solutions aren't working. So, here's what's going on, you guys. Crazy, right? All right, what else do we have here? I mean, if they were to do something like this, wouldn't the best method? Look at, there's another lady with no hair. Alopecia. You guys, this is becoming more and more popular now, as we said in previous shows. But anyway, wouldn't it make more sense to base this forgiveness of debt on how much someone's making right now? Let's say you're making $150,000 a year. Well, you should probably only get 5 or 10% of your debt canceled. Whereas a person who's still struggling to find a job and who did complete their degree should have 60% of their debt canceled. I don't know. But I do know this. All of America was waiting for a handout when all these stimulus checks went out, and nobody had a problem with that. Even though it was $1 trillion, which is about what they're saying this is going to cost. I think it's 2 or 3 trillion this time to forgive a lot of this debt. And so here's the problem. All right. Now, what else do we have here? Well, a lot of you had sent this to me. You guys wanted me to cover this. A mystery liver disease that is taking out children right and left. Now, this is really sad. Now, as far as I know, anytime a new mystery illness would emerge on the landscape, isn't the first thing that epidemiologists do, don't they ask what new thing or new changes have happened recently? They could have been an external factor that could have caused this. Isn't that what they do? That's what I thought. But, of course, there's one huge white elephant in the room that they swear up and down has nothing to do with this new illness. Mystery liver disease kills 3 more children after a significant increase in cases. What could be causing this? 3 children in Indonesia have died from mysterious liver disease. Country's health ministry said, raising to at least 4 the global death toll of fatal ailment, puzzling doctors from the U.S. to Asia. This severe strain of acute hepatitis has been identified in nearly 170 children across 11 countries in recent weeks. What else has been spread across the entire world within the last 2 years? But yet they have no idea what's causing this. Symptoms afflicting the children include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, before their livers showed signs of inflammation. So, bizarre. We'll have to keep an eye on this. Now, you see the symptoms here. If you know children in your life and you start seeing these kinds of symptoms, you start talking to parents, well, you might want to ask them some questions about any recent changes that have happened in their life. Now, of course, the fact checkers totally debunk any connection to anything else. This is still a mystery to them. So, very, very weird. So that's the update on the mystery illness, liver disease. What else do we have here? Well, Putskin has had enough, and he's shutting off the heat to millions of Europeans. Can't talk today. Europeans who dared come up against his efforts in the new Ukraine. Putskin has put the West on notice. They can terminate exports and deals. Russian President Putskin put the West on notice on Tuesday that he could terminate exports and deals. So he's just, biting back at what they've done to him pretty much. And so this is causing an uproar across the economic landscape, isn't it? The people who are suffering right now are the Europeans. They're the ones under direct threat. We're just the ones poking the bear and exacerbating the situation, aren't we? Now, I think this is breaking news. I think this just happened last night. This is our last story for today, guys. Apparently, Dave Chappelle got attacked on stage. What? Look at this, you guys. Oh wait, that's not him. That's Ewan McGregor. Why is it showing that? LAPD releases images of weapon. It says, man pointed at Dave Chappelle during the attack. LA police say the man who tackled Dave Chappelle on stage Tuesday night at the Hollywood Bowl was carrying a fake pop stick that featured a blade that folded out, which he pointed at the comedian before security subdued the suspect. As he was exiting the stage, a male who was part of the audience jumped onto the stage and tackled the comedian to the ground. The suspect produced what was later discovered to be a replica handgun and pointed the item at the victim. Hollywood Bowl security officers who witnessed the incident engaged the suspect and removed him from the victim and took him into custody. Sounds like he had time if he wanted to stab him. I don't know what this was about. This is just really weird. Apparently he wasn't stabbed or anything, but weird how we got these comedians being attacked now, isn't it? It all started with Will Smith and Chris Rock, and now we have another black man, interestingly, being attacked by someone up on stage. So, weird. Suspect was arrested for assault. He was transported to a local hospital to treat injuries sustained during the altercation with security. All right. Okay, let's go back in the chat, you guys. Those are pretty much the headlines for today. See what you guys are up to. Dave Chappelle getting attacked on stage. Weird. All right. See what you guys are up to. There we go. Yeah, it always saddens me when the children suffer, isn't it? All is staged, says Redeemed. Yes, it is. Trying to evoke a response to the mainstream is why we have to look at these headlines and help people understand that a lot of this stuff is staged. They're just trying to get people, they're trying to steer public sentiment toward different directions. That's the whole point of it. Yes, they're all in the cabal. Advertising for nuts to start attacking black men in the streets. Yeah, I can see that happening. Literally to happen on stage. Put on the full armor of God daily. Yes, Susie. I refused and continue to refuse what they want me to do. What do you think about the SCOTUS release? Says Jim. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. On our headline show yesterday, or day before yesterday, I'm sorry. Yesterday we had the Rainbow History Timeline of the World show, and that was a really good show. If you missed that, you definitely want to go back to yesterday's show. But in terms of the SCOTUS release, to me, it's very suspicious that it was released in the way it was. That never, ever, ever happens. Okay? So, my guess is this is just to stir up controversy. And there's no way that well, don't mark my words on this one, because anything can happen. But there's no way they're going to get rid of the taking of a life in the womb. There's just no way. Okay, they're just seeing what is going to happen. Okay, that's all. And I know a lot of channels are running with this and saying, oh yeah, it's going to be the end of taking the child in the womb. It's over. We finally won. But understand that they love to do the bait and switch. They always do this. They say something's going to happen and then it never happens. Case in point, Thump said he was going to put Hillary in jail. Did she ever go to jail? No. But when he was saying it, everyone thought it was going to happen for sure, didn't they? Right? So, understand that they gaslight a lot of the times too. They get everyone all up in it, they get you all emotionally invested and believing you won. The letter that shall not be named crowd was notorious for this. Notorious. And the people that followed them, every week they thought something was going to happen for sure on a certain date. And every single time, nothing would happen. Every single time. How many times does someone have to cry wolf before you stop following them and stop believing? And so just understand that this is probably not going to happen. If it doesn't happen, don't be upset about it. And if it does happen, make sure that we take a good close look on what exactly they're doing and saying. I mean, nothing's really going to change. Even if they did reverse Roe v. Wade, it would just go back to the states. So you would have states that are conservative that would make it illegal, and the liberal states would go full bore legalization and put one on every corner, right? And nothing would really change. It's still going to happen. It's still going to happen. So, I believe that top of the list for American sin is that. It's at the top of the list. And there will be judgment. Make no mistake. 58 million souls gone since 1973. 58 million. And God, all of that blood spilt, God does not turn away from that. There has to be atonement for that. And our Christian, Judeo-Christian society is not doing the trick, okay? There's no action behind the feeling. And so that's the problem that I have with what's happening, is that how did this leak out? It just was very suspicious. It was almost like they were doing a litmus test or some kind of test to see what was going to happen. And I doubt, I'm like 70% sure it's not going to happen. Now, I could be wrong, but that's just my guess. So those are my thoughts, Jim, on the SCOTUS announcement. Yeah, Skywatcher Dennis, at the top of the list is that. Second place would be war casualties. You know, lying to men to draw them into war, to give up their lives for lies. That would be number 2. That second one, though, the war casualty thing, is a little bit more nuanced, because the devil lies to these people, and they are adults, and basically, you know, it probably doesn't make God as angry. Yes, men are dying, Molech in the fire and all that stuff. But when it comes to children, the Bible warns about that. The Bible warns. It's like you put a millstone around your neck. So look out. And it'll be harsh, you guys. It will be harsh, the judgment that's coming to us for that. So, now, people harm themselves every single day, don't they? But through the lies of the devil. They put toxic things in their body. They eat toxic foods. So there's a lot of that kind of sacrifice going on as well. But in those instances, you know, God's always there, waiting, hoping that you listen to him, hoping that you wake up. My people perish because of lack of knowledge. And so, if you begin to wake up and you do not believe the lies of the devil, and you begin to wake up as to what is making you sick, then all of a sudden, God can work with you and help you. And then you don't lose your life. So there are different stages of sin that the enemy uses to take souls and damn people to hell. And you just pretty much, that's the list right there. It's the taking of the life in the womb, then it's war, and then it's all the other things the devil lies to us about that makes us hurt ourselves. So, all right, that was a good question, Jim. Thanks for that. Somebody linked the no-hide laws into this as well, saying that if this RV way got reversed, that it would then open things up for the no-hide laws. And I can imagine that could be the case. I can imagine that could be the case. I don't know. All right. Thanks for showing up, Monica. Yes, warrior for truth. God's will be done. All these things have to happen. The only thing we can do is, give our lives to the Lord and just wake up to all these lies and try to help others wake up to the lies. That's about all we can do, you guys. Be saved and try to help other people be saved through your example in your life, through the gospel, and through helping people not perish because of lack of knowledge. And that is the main goal of this channel. All right. Exactly, Jesus saves. You nailed it. But yet they don't want to make the connection. It's the only thing that's really changed around the world in the last 2 or 3 years. There have been things that have changed in certain pockets of the world, but overall, the entire world, the only new piece of evidence or new factor or new variable, I should say, is that. So, like the days of Noah, absolutely. All right, you guys. Well, I appreciate everyone coming out. We'll be back on here tomorrow. I don't know what we're doing tomorrow yet. Got a couple series I'm watching. And, but if we don't do anything else, we'll do another Between the Headlines show. There are some more headlines we need to cover tomorrow. I love each and every one of you, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care and be safe.